Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Fort Worth Property Management Podcast. I am your host, Mason Arispe. I am the Operations and Business Development Manager at First Choice Property Management here in Fort Worth, Texas. We just got done filming episode 2 for you. We're super excited for all of y'all tuning in for episode 2. In today's episode, we discuss 4 strategies that you can begin investing in real estate that are low cost. That does not mean zero money out of pocket. It's different ways that you can get involved in real estate whenever you don't have $50,000 to $100,000 sitting in a bank account somewhere. One thing we do want to stress is that real estate is a long play, and over time it does take money to maintain and preserve a real estate asset. So if you begin real estate investing with one of these low-cost strategies, begin saving up, begin budgeting correctly so that you can continue to maintain that asset over time. All right, guys, I'm super excited for you to hear today's podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 2. With that being said, let's get right into it. All right, guys, we appreciate you a bunch for tuning in to episode 2 of the Fort Worth Property Management Podcast, cheapest ways to get into real estate investing. I want to start with real estate in general. You may be thinking, I don't have $50,000 to $100,000 in my bank account, but I've heard that real estate is one of the best investment strategies that you can have. And you're correct. With real estate, there are multiple ways to build wealth, even with just one property. Investing in real estate is extremely attractive because it has multiple different ways to build wealth. I mean, just to name a few, you have appreciation, so the asset goes up over time as you hold it. Tax advantages, and so when you're a landlord, you get deductions on things like expenses, repairs, mortgage interest, stuff like that. Cash flow. So if you have a low mortgage and you end up renting the property for more than that mortgage, everything left over is just extra income, extra cash flow that you have each month. And then equity pay down, right? You have another person living in the house paying rent on it. Every month they pay rent and you put that towards your mortgage, you're building equity. So over time, as you rent the property out, somebody else is paying your mortgage and you're reaping all the benefits for it. That is just the tip of the iceberg in why people want to jump into real estate investing so quick. And there are some cheap ways to get into real estate investing. I know firsthand, I've done it myself. I do not have hundreds of $1,000s in the bank just to put down on one single rental property. But my wife and I do own 2 single-family homes here in Fort Worth, both of which we put minimal money down. Not no money, minimal money down. And we'll get into that a bit later on what that means. First, I do want to start off with a few strategies to avoid. Let's be real. There is no shortage of YouTube or TikTok videos promising you can flip this house, make $40,000, roll that into the next house, make $80,000, roll that, and then you're making $100,000 a month, right? We've all seen the videos. We've all gotten super excited and thought, how on earth is that happening? So I want to be your voice of reason. I want to tell you, if you're looking at these videos, it sounds way too flashy. It sounds way too good to be true. It probably is. The one thing about real estate is that, yes, it is an incredible investment strategy. But the number one thing you have to endure to be successful is time. It takes time. This whole get rich quick is not a thing in real estate. And so you have to be able to put the time in, or you have to give the property the appropriate amount of time to reap the benefits of appreciation, of the equity pay down, all of that good stuff. So here are a few different investment strategy routes that personally I think you should avoid whenever you're looking to get into real estate in the cheapest way possible. The number one real estate investment strategy that I think you should avoid when looking for the cheapest way to get into real estate is fix and flips. Flipping sounds fun, buy super low, work your butt off, get in there and put some sweat equity into it, and then sell it for a lot of money, and then sell it for way higher, cash out, and then do the same for the next property or two, right? And it sounds really nice. The payoff potentially could be one of the highest that you get with very quick capital up front. But in reality, with fix and flips, there are 50 million moving parts, a lot of risk, and it's truly never no money down or low money down. So let me explain to you where these costs come up and why it is not a good option for getting into real estate in the cheapest way possible. Majority of the time, if you want to fix and flip, you either have to have all the cash to purchase the property initially or all the cash to pay for the rehab budget. Money is typically needed upfront for either the purchase or the rehab during a fix and flip. All the videos online are telling you use a hard money lender. A hard money lender will loan you money based on the deal. So you don't need a credit score, you don't need great income. They'll look at the deal and its potential for you to make money, and they will lend to you based on that deal. And while that is great, they charge you interest-only monthly payments. And so you have to pay a percentage of the purchase price of the property. So if the purchase price is under $100,000, you're looking at about $1,000 a month to hold this property until you fix it up, get it ready to go, and then sell it. But here in Fort Worth, you're typically buying a single family home that's really run down for $175,000 to $250,000. So that means monthly you're paying on average about $2,000 a month just to hold this thing. On top of that, you're having to find contractors, work with their delays. You're going to end up finding things that are over budget. It's inevitable. You can budget for everything. You will still find stuff that's over budget. And then on top of all of that, you have to time the market to list it at the appropriate time. Once you list it, you'll have at least 30 days to find a buyer. In this market, potentially give seller concessions to attract a buyer to your house, your standard 30-day close, and then any negotiations during that time. And so there are a lot of moving parts in the process of fix and flips that I think if you're initially looking to get into real estate in the cheapest way possible, fix and flips is more for somebody who has a business partner who knows the entire process already and can handle it for you, or it's for more seasoned real estate investors. They can get into that because they know all the intricacies of a real estate transaction like that. And so I personally would stay away from fix and flips. That includes the BRRRR method. The BRRRR method is one of the most attractive investment strategies out there. It's pretty much fix and flipping with a refinance, which adds closing costs. That's another one that I would stay away from until you have a few transactions under your belt, until you can see kind of the intricacies of a full real estate transaction. And the last investment strategy that I would stay away from is creative financing, subject to seller finance, stuff like that. It potentially can be a very low money down opportunity. However, if you do it the correct way, through a title company, through a mortgage company, and have all the legal documents written up correctly, you're either going to pay your standard closing costs to a title company, which is typically 3% of the purchase price, call it 10 grand at least, or you're going to be paying attorney's fees to draw up everything and make sure that everything's done correctly. And so neither of those options are low money down in my mind. Again, it's all subjective for how much money that you have in the bank. If you don't have that in the bank, you should probably wait, save up, pay off some debt, put yourself in a better situation to where now I have this money in the bank, I can risk losing it or at least having it tied up in a real estate property for a few years. And so now that we've established which investment strategies to stay away from, let's get into 4 ways that I believe you can begin real estate investing in the cheapest way possible. To set a baseline, the word cheap is very vague. It's subjective based on how much money you have in your current situation. So right now, I'm thinking $50,000 to $100,000 in the bank. You're not going to be looking to get into real estate investing cheap. You're going to be able to purchase through your traditional conventional loan. In my mind, if you have $10,000 in your bank account, you're going to be looking for the cheapest ways to get. You have a good amount of money in the bank, but you don't have enough to just purchase a rental property outright. You don't have enough to put 25% down plus closing costs on a rental property. Quick disclaimer for you. Investing in real estate does require a lot of money. You need to keep building your savings. Just because you finally close on a property doesn't mean your worries end there. And by the way, by no means am I advocating for finding the cheapest house in the entire city, buying that one, taking the risk, and just saying I'm moving into it. All of this advice is aimed towards the idea of purchasing a solid new construction that won't cost you a lot of money over time. All right, so we're going to start with our low cost entry number 1, and that's going to be get your real estate license and then purchase your first primary residence. This is my number 1 pick because this is the exact way that I purchased my first primary residence and now rental property. And so not every one of you is going to want to be a real estate agent or anything like that. But with my journey, I knew that I wanted to work in real estate. So I got my real estate license when I first started working with First Choice Property Management, which worked perfectly because I have to sign property management agreements with homeowners. So I needed my real estate license, which is great. I got my real estate license, which based on your state can cost anywhere from about $600 to about $1,200. So somewhere in that range, call it $1,000 it costs you to get your real estate license, take the test, and then get set up with a brokerage. The brokerage may cost you another few $100s, so call it about $1,500. You get your real estate license and you're set up with a brokerage. Okay? Going this route, you also gain a wealth of knowledge on real estate. You go through the courses, you learn about the contracts, you learn about good properties, bad properties. You also learn a little bit about negotiations, and you have a little bit more skin in the game whenever you go looking for your property. Now fast forward to when you have your real estate license, you have some money in the bank, and you're ready to go ahead and start looking to purchase your first property. The first thing that I want you to do is open your MLS or go to Zillow, start looking around for properties, and filter for houses that have been on the market for 60 days or longer. These are going to be the homes that are not getting a lot of activity anymore and where the sellers are going to be getting a little bit more desperate. You're going to look for this in hopes of getting a seller concession. AKA, you're going to try and get the seller to pay for your closing costs. Once you find those houses, start putting offers in on those properties with a seller concession. Based on your purchase price, you want about 2 to 3% of the purchase price. Here in Fort Worth, that's anywhere from about $8,000 to $11,000 in a seller concession to pay for your closing costs. Okay? Now, once you find these properties and you want to submit your offer with the seller concession, and then you also want to get an FHA loan. An FHA loan only requires 3.5% down to purchase the property. Your standard transaction is typically 3.5% down for your down payment and then 3% for your closing costs. Once you find a property where your closing costs are covered, all you have to worry about is your down payment. In this case, with an FHA loan, it's 3.5% down. However, since you got your real estate license and you are going to be the agent representing yourself in this transaction, you are going to earn a 3% commission at closing. So now you're going to apply that 3% commission to your down payment. All you have to bring to the closing table is 0.5% of the purchase price to close on the property. So if you bought a $300,000 house here in Fort Worth, Texas, you got your closing costs covered, you use an FHA loan, and get 3% as your commission, you have to bring 0.5% to the closing table to cover your cash to close. That would be $1,500. So to sum it all up from the very beginning, you need about $1,500 for your real estate license. You now need $1,500 to bring to the closing table. And then I would factor in about $1,000 to $1,500 for your inspections and your appraisals while you're under contract on the property. So with all that being said, if you go the route of getting your real estate license, representing yourself whenever you purchase your own primary residence, total, on average, you'll need about $4,500 over the span of 6 months. And so with that being said, it's not no money down, it is low money down, $4,500 to get you into your own primary residence. With this strategy, you do need to live in the property for at least 1 year. That's one of the requirements of an FHA loan. After that, on 1 year from the date that you close, you can move out, list it for rent, and find a renter at that point. Like I said, it takes time in real estate, but this is one of the cheapest ways that you can purchase a rental property with low to no money down. I know this firsthand. I've done this twice. I did it once with my first purchase on my house. It's here in Fort Worth. It's currently rented out now. The only caveat that I did it twice is that I happened to get engaged about 9 months after purchasing my house. So I had my fiance start looking for her purchase, and she used her FHA loan, and I gave my commission to her for the down payment after she moved in. So we actually did it twice. We now own 2 properties here in Fort Worth. One is a rental. The other we are living in right now. We just closed on it in June of 2025. So next summer, maybe even next fall, we will move out, repeat the process with maybe a conventional loan at that point. All right, low cost entry number 2, house hacking. House hacking remains an unbeaten investment strategy for beginners. What house hacking is purchasing a property, living in one part, and renting out another unit. House hacking is most commonly described when purchasing a duplex. You buy a duplex and there's typically 2 units side by side next to each other. You live in one side and you rent out the other. The benefits to this is that you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. One, you immediately start investing in real estate by renting out one side, receiving rental income to pay for your mortgage. The other side of that, you're also covering your living expenses. You're living on the property. You don't have one mortgage on your rental property and another mortgage for your primary residence. It's all tied into one, and you use the rent income to supplement the mortgage. You probably still have to come out of pocket a little bit, but it's better than just buying a house outright and paying for that. House hacking can also be done in a few different ways. I saw it done firsthand when I went to Texas Tech University. A student would purchase a house and rent out each room to their roommates. You can do that here in Fort Worth. You can do it here near the TCU area if you wanted to. House hacking is one of the most attractive low-cost entry investment strategies. And some of y'all may be wondering, why is house hacking significantly cheaper than just purchasing a rental property? Well, when you house hack, you technically are not purchasing a rental property. You are purchasing a primary residence that you happen to be renting a section out of. So when you purchase a primary residence, you qualify for an FHA loan, which was mentioned earlier. An FHA loan has a down payment requirement of 3.5%. And so with this property, you would put 3.5% down plus closing costs. You're required to move into the property and live in it for a year, while also being able to rent out different sections of your home, whether it's renting out different rooms, an ADU, or even a separate unit in the case of a duplex. The ability to be able to use an FHA loan to purchase this property and receive rental income is the reason that house hacking is extremely attractive. It's a great strategy. I've actually seen it used firsthand by a lot of people in college. Students who know about this in college will either use their parents' help or are smart enough to begin purchasing real estate in college. They will purchase a property, find 3 of their buddies to move in with them, and they will rent out each individual room to their roommates. This is house hacking. They may not even know what they're doing, but it's an incredible way to start building wealth and begin your journey in real estate investing. Now, both of those investment strategies require a few $1,000s up front, right? So the next 2 low-cost entry are going to be hypothetically zero money down. And yes, I want to cautiously say hypothetically zero money down, because while these are the two strategies that advertise zero money down, along the way there is potential to where you have to put up some of your own capital, or it's still going to need something in lieu of the money that you would necessarily need. So, low cost entry number 3 is wholesaling. Now, let's take a step back. I know just about every person who wants to be a real estate investor has seen a video on TikTok, on Instagram about wholesaling. Wholesaling tends to be the first stepping stone for a lot of people when getting into real estate, but it's still a moderately difficult transaction to master, and it requires a lot of effort and work. Okay, so what is wholesaling? Wholesaling is essentially being the middleman in a real estate transaction. What do I mean by that? When you become a wholesaler, your goal is to find a distressed or rundown property that needs a lot of work. It needs a new roof, it needs to be painted, it needs to be gutted down to the studs and built back up. You're looking for those type of houses. A wholesaler will reach out to the homeowner, make a super lowball offer in hopes that the homeowner is currently desperate to sell. The homeowners are basically willing to give you that huge of a discount so that they don't have to put the effort into fixing this place up. Whenever you find one of those homeowners, you get the property under contract. You do have a legally binding purchase agreement with the seller of that property. The wholesaler will find a cash buyer or a real estate investor who does fix and flips, and will go to them and say, I have this deal locked up for $100,000. I will sell you the rights to this contract for $120,000. If the real estate investor agrees, wholesaler will assign the contract to the end buyer and be the middleman in the transaction. So the wholesaler locked up the deal at $100,000. They sold it to the real estate investor or the fix and flipper for $120,000. The wholesaler now pockets that $20,000 gap in the middle. That is basically their fee or their commission for doing the legwork to find those properties, lock up a deal, and then transfer it directly to the investor. Reason that this investment strategy is typically very low cost is because through that entire process, theoretically, zero money is needed. You can get in your car, drive down the street, and look for an extremely rundown house. You can go online, find the owner of the property for free. You can Google their name, try and find their phone number, try and find their email address, maybe find their primary residence. All of that you can hypothetically do for free. It just takes a lot of legwork and a lot of time. You can use a free contract online, fill it out yourself, send it to the seller yourself, and get them to sign it. Once you're under contract, you typically need something that is called earnest money, or basically a deposit showing, yes, I am serious about buying this house. If you're a good enough wholesaler, you can negotiate in the contract that your earnest money is $0, $5, $100. It's typically somewhere around 1% to 2% of the purchase price. But like I said, as you increase your sales as a wholesaler, you can negotiate that down to where you don't need any money out of pocket, hypothetically, right? You can get on Facebook, find a fix and flipper, find a real estate investor who you can assign this property to, and then they end up paying for the property in cash. They pay all the closing costs associated with sending the property to title and to the attorneys. With this strategy, you never actually purchase the property. So you don't have to put any money down. You don't have to bring anything to closing. You don't have to pay for appraisals or inspections or anything like that. All of that is now the end buyer's responsibility. And so this strategy, hypothetically, again, if you are an incredibly skilled wholesaler, can be low to no money down. But in reality, In reality, there's a lot of points through this transaction that can end up costing money. And so let me give you a few examples. If you want to skip trace software to find the property owner's direct cell and email address fairly quickly to save you some time, you can pay for it. It's usually a subscription-based software that you can get online. If the seller is adamant on wanting a bigger earnest money deposit, they may require you to put $500, $1,000, a few $1,000s down in earnest money, so that could end up costing you some money. And then you can also pay for software to streamline your business. Things like DocuSign, PropStream, where you can build lists and cold call people very quickly. There's a lot of stuff that can go into it to help streamline that will end up costing you money. But this is, once you complete a transaction, you will technically be a real estate investor, and it is a way that you could get your foot in the door, begin some transactions, and begin to learn the ins and outs of real estate. Now, there are some skills that you would need to develop in order to pursue this investment strategy. I would say one of the biggest skills you must have is negotiation and marketing. You have to be able to market yourself well enough to where you have a reputable brand behind you, and then you have to have negotiation skills to be able to, one, convince a seller to give you their property at a big discount, two, negotiate low cost for you throughout the contract, and then three, have the ability to assign that over to an end buyer. So there are a lot of skills that you need. You will also have to learn how to properly value a property. If you're not able to do that, wholesaling will be very difficult, and you'll struggle to lock up deals, one, with the sellers, two, with the end buyer. If the end buyers don't think it's a good deal for them, they'll back out and not close the contract. So a lot goes into wholesaling. It's not just zero money down, but it is a way that you can get your foot in the door, begin and start learning the ins and outs of real estate. And last, definitely not least, low cost entry number 4 is partnering or joint venture. So joint ventures are basically partnering together with somebody to get a real estate deal done. Each partner must have their own particular skill set or asset that they provide to the partnership. In our case, which we're talking about today, when you're looking to get into a deal with no money down, the partner that you typically need is somebody with the money, somebody that will put up their resources in order to fund the deal while you are typically the operations end. You are the one overseeing the real estate transaction from the beginning to the end. These partnerships are typically done with 2 of the investment strategies that we spoke of beforehand. It's typically done, one, in a wholesale deal. You can joint venture a wholesale deal and have somebody help you distribute the property that you locked up to an investor, just to make sure that they see it all the way through and that it gets done properly. The more common example is that it is done during a fix and flip. You, as the operations partner, it is your job to find the deal. It is your partner's job to fund it. So you find the deal, you manage the rehab, they handle the financing. At the very end, when you refinance the property or when you sell it on the market, both partners would split the profit that comes from that property. So if you go down this route, keep in mind that you can find a partner who will fund the deal. However, you still have to provide something to this partnership. In these joint ventures, majority of the time, you will be the operations partner. So you need to have the ability to find and lock up a good deal, have the ability to manage the rehab. Now, I'm not saying you have to go and complete everything by hand, but if you're coordinating the contractors, if you're calling out all the vendors and making sure that you oversee the work, you're going to have to make some big decisions on prices, on fixtures, on paint, on getting the house ready to go. And then at the very end, you have to have known that it was a good enough deal to where you will have some profit left over at the very end. And then once the transaction is successful, all the profit is typically split 50-50 unless there was a different agreed upon price whenever you form the partnership. Some keys to success when going down this route is number 1, have everything in writing. Even if it's your best friend in the entire world, make sure you have some type of partnership agreement or some type of contract with how the profit will be split up at the end and how all of the finances are going to be handled whenever you sell the house, how the financing partner is going to be reimbursed. Another key to success for this route is to be upfront about the goals, the timeline, and each person's role. You do have to actively define that. And then if it's going to take 6 months to rehab and put on the market, don't try and butter up your partner by telling them it's only going to take 2. You need to know how long it's actually going to take so that we make sure we have enough funds to cover the carrying costs that you have through the time frame that you're doing your rehab. And then the last key to success here is to choose your partner very carefully. Just because they have the money is not a good enough reason to select them as partner. You need to make sure that your partner has complementary skills to yours. Maybe they're good with bookkeeping and they'd be a good partner to kind of help make sure that the budget stays in order. Make sure you have shared goals and ethics. If you form a partnership, make sure the level of profit that you're trying to achieve is the same with both. If one partner wants to refinance and keep the property as their own, that's not going to work too well when the other partner's wanting to put it on the market, sell it, and cash out, take the money, and run. So make sure you have shared goals whenever you choose to enter a partnership or a joint venture. Just to recap real quick, we went over 4 low-cost entry strategies to getting involved in real estate investing. Number 1, get your real estate license and purchase your own primary residence. Number 2, house hacking. Number 3, wholesaling. And number 4, partnership or joint ventures. I know we had a limited time today, so if you're listening to this and maybe one of those strategies was not explained enough, leave a comment below, give us a call. Our company name is First Choice Property Management. You can get a hold of me or anybody at our company fairly easily. If you have a question about something we reviewed today, do not hesitate to reach out. We want to give you true, accurate guidance as you're beginning in your real estate journey. So if you have some questions, please do not hesitate to shoot us a message. We will get on a call and we're happy to clarify any of the strategies discussed in today's episode. I really enjoyed today's episode with y'all. I want to be as open and honest about some of these investment strategies so that you have a place that you can go to that you know you can actually trust. We are all sold a lot of hypothetical dreams on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and I want to be the place that you can actually trust when it comes to real estate because we've done it and we've been there before. So if you're just starting out in real estate and you're looking to get involved in real estate investing for cheap, try to avoid strategies that are either complex or have large enough risk to just drain all your cash and your confidence. Focus on lower cost, low risk entry points that can teach you something along the way. And then, of course, real estate is a long game. There are very few strategies where you can be successful in a short amount of time. Real estate is a long game. Success builds over time, not overnight. Even with wholesaling, it takes months to get started, get a deal under your belt, and have success. So when it comes to real estate investing, the number one thing you have to endure to build wealth and be successful is time. Make sure when you begin investing, you give the property enough time to build the value that you're looking for. If you're nervous or you have any questions, reach out to us here at First Choice. Reach out to a trusted real estate agent or a real estate advisor to learn if you're in the right place to begin with your real estate journey. And of course, if you already own a property and you need help either analyzing a rental price, talking through if this is a good idea or not, reach out to us at First Choice Property Management. We're super excited to chat with our listeners. You can find us at fortworthpropertymanagement.com. You can leave a comment under this episode and we will be checking comments daily. We really appreciate you tuning in to episode 2 of the Fort Worth Property Management Podcast. Please like the show, follow, turn on notifications so that you're alerted every time we upload a new podcast. For right now, we plan to upload podcasts every other Wednesday, so every 2 weeks, which can be adjusted over time if needed. For now, as we're beginning, we're going to upload every other Wednesday. And please continue to tune in, leave feedback, give any advice that you can, because we're happy to listen. We're going to take and learn from our listeners so that we can be the best and most trusted podcast here in the Fort Worth, Texas area for you when it comes to real estate and property management services. I am your host, Mason Arispe. That concludes episode 2 of the Fort Worth Property Management Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day.